Hello wonderful people, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel. And I don't know if you knew, but last week, just over a week ago, Skrillex's debut album Recess, it turned 10 years old. It is a decade old now, and I thought what I could do in celebration of that milestone is just to go through all 11 tracks from that LP and rank them tier list style. As many of you know, I started a new series on the channel recently. It is called Throwback React, where basically I go through a particular project, a famous one, a well-known one from the bass scene, whether it be dubstep or drum and bass, trap, whatever. And I kicked off that series with Bangarang, which is an EP, not an album, also from Skrillex of course, which came out a few years prior to Recess. And in the comments of that video, I had quite a few people being like, you've got to do Recess next, it's a classic, oh you got to do it. And it did have me thinking, I'm not sure, for myself anyway, I'm not sure that it is a classic. Thought that when I was reading the comments, I still think it now. So basically I'm hoping that by doing this video, going through all these tunes and talking about them, that I'm going to have a clearer idea as to whether it is indeed a classic for me or not, and for all of you guys as well watching this video. And yeah, we're just going to go through these tracks in the tracklist order on the LP, and like I said, ranking them from S at the very top to F at the very bottom. Let's go. And first up, of course, kicking off the album, we have All Is Fair in Love and Brostep, previously titled as Untitled DJ Tool or This Much Power. Now, I imagine you'll all remember the furore surrounding this tune when it came out, the kicker-offer for Skrillex's debut album, Lest We Forget. Just before the album came out, we got a post from Zomboy, who basically said, yeah, I heard this track as an ID, of course, at a live show, a gig. It must have been a Skrillex gig, and the idea just kind of lodged in my head, and I didn't really make that much of it. It kind of sat in my subconscious, and from there, I made Terror Squad. So yeah, going into this tune, feeling a little bit sorry for Skrillex, knowing that loads of people love Terror Squad already, they've gotten used to the idea, and so even though this was Skrillex's original idea, it feels like an imitation because the idea has already been done. It's already been executed by Zomboy. But what I will say for me anyway is that now All Is Fair in Love and Brostep over time has become better than Terror Squad, knowing it was his original idea. And not only that, but I also find this tune to be not that far off Skrillex's actual best material within his whole discography. Yeah, it is for me one of the best introductions to a bass album of all time. It packs all the punch that you'd want from a Skrillex tune. It's got a really momentous and epic feel to it across all the different sections that we get. Fantastic Ragged Twins vocals to go with that as well and give it added character, as well as all the little nods that we get to Terror Squad with the whole All Is Fair in Love and Brostep title, which is just saying, yeah, you know what, between us, modern dubstep producers or dubstep or brostep producers, whatever you want to call them, it's all good, it's all fair. You got the little laughs in there, you got the whole nod with the vocal samples to Terror Squad itself. It's fucking Zomboy, you know, that whole thing. It's just clever. There's lots of cleverness relating back to that track. Feeling really like a bit of an intergalactic voyage, which is the perfect introduction for the LP, given the artwork that we're getting here, the whole alien, extraterrestrial, outer worldly kind of themes. So yeah, it's really good. Not quite up there with his very, very best tunes in his discography. I did mention that earlier, but it's really not that far off that, and it is still a very, very good cut and a fantastic introduction, like I said. So for All Is Fair in Love and Brostep, I'm actually going to slot it in between the A and S. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, next up we have Recess, the title tune with Kill the Noise and Fat Man Scoop and Michael Angelakos of Passion Pit fame. Now don't get me wrong, this is a very fun tune. It is very happy-go-lucky. It's a nice little pop-bass fusion that we get here. I think all the elements work together pretty well, but I've always come out of hearing it just wanting that little bit more. I mean, when you really think about it, this kind of period, this kind of era within, you know, bassy electronic music, Skrillex and Kill the Noise are at they're almost, well, pretty much at the peak of their powers, and I hear this and I'm just like, Was this really the best you could come up with, drops-wise? Really? Again, I think all the elements are there to make a good tune. I think the Fat Man Scoop edition is really clever, works really well given the instrumental they went for. Just find the drops a little bit meh, not that impressive again, given how good they each were at that point. The middle drop, to be fair, does add a little bit of needle, a little bit of bite, but that's only really because it stands out in amidst the other two, the ones kind of either side of it that are, I think, the same, pretty much identical, and which are just a bit tame, a little bit lifeless, if I'm being honest. All that being said, I do love the bounce of it, I do love the whole happy feel of it, and just, yeah, the pop-bass fusion that we get there, it is good. So yeah, this track, for me, definitely good without being great in any way. So Recess, I'm going to be putting, bit of fiddling going on here, in the B row. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it in between B and C here, do another midway point kind of thing. That's, I think, a bit more reflective of how I feel about it overall. Following that, at track number 3, as we all know, it is Stranger with Kilogram of Milo and Otis fame, and also of just his own fame, really, as Kilogram, and Sam Dew on vocal duty, I think. And I think given what Skrillex and Kilogram went for instrumentally with this tune, it has pretty much everything. Tracks like this, for me anyway, show off the genius of Skrillex, because really, with those squeals that we get in the first drop in particular, this track should be pretty off-putting, a little bit jarring and that kind of thing, but it's actually a really, really infectious, upbeat, just summery, fantastic little house beat. The vocal that we get from Sam Dew is fantastic in every way, just great lyricism and a really soothing feel about it, combating the squealiness that we get in that first drop in particular. And then the second drop breakdown, which is just perfect, again, given what they were going for, given what comes before it. So good. Again, Stranger, it's one of those tunes where I'm like, it's not quite one of his very best within his discography, but it is still very, very good. So Stranger, happily placing in the A row. What a track. After that, track number 4, a cut that went through many different iterations, as we all know, alongside Alvin Risk, another legend of the bass scene around this time. This is the Neon mix, that version of Try It Out. I have to be honest, not my favourite iteration or version of this original, just because that first drop feels a little bit static. I can't quite remember if it's like that with the other versions, but I think there are a couple of versions of this original where the first drop is just a little bit more active, got a few more sounds in there, a few more gaps being filled and whatnot, giving this one just that little bit of a laboured feel comparatively with the other ones we've got, the other versions. But, you know, one of the most memorable vocal samples on the whole LP is on this original, makes it stand out. And then also, you know, if Alvin Risk was a favourite of yours back in the day, as he was of mine, then you will clearly hear his influence here, and that will make you love it a lot more. Very energetic, very in your face, especially in the second half, but that's almost its problem, in that the differences are quite stark, for me anyway, between that first and second drop, which are the points around which the track functions, of course. So given that there is that big difference, but, you know, acknowledging also that the Alvin Risk influence is fantastic, and there's a lot of great laser usage, some of Skrillex's best on the track, I think I'm going to go for a B for the Try It Out Neon mix. There we go. We've got a nice little formation gathering on this tier list, look at that. Okay, after that, track number 5, we have Coast is Clear, the main collaborator here, of course, being Chance the Rapper. When I first heard this tune on the album, I was like, okay, yeah, a cool experiment, you know, why not? A bit of jazz rap, drum and bass fusion with a cool colliding of musical worlds here, Chance the Rapper, Skrillex, other people helping out with the instrumental and whatnot. But guys, the more I've gone back to this one, I cannot help but think, I genuinely cannot help but think that this track is awful. Where do I even begin? Okay, let's start with the lyrics. Why not? Let's start with the lyrics from Chance the Rapper. This song is framed around a person trying to get to know Chance the Rapper, rubbishing all that other stuff that the other person is talking about, trying to get to know him, and just says, all I want to know is do you want to fuck? Do you want to fuck? Do you want to fuck? It's just like, I know these kind of lyrics are normalized where people are just kind of hyper fixated on sex. They just can't think about anything other than fucking people and having sex and all that kind of thing. Just because they're normalized, it doesn't mean they're good in any way. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's a little bit weird, a little bit odd, and a little bit uncomfortable as a listen overall. The music itself, the instrumental, has got this janky kind of feel about it, whereby the elements coming together don't quite work and they feel a little bit out of place. You know, good in other parts of the tune, but for the most part, just not quite working. Empty also at important points of the tune. And then to go with that, you've got Chance the Rapper not only with the weird lyricism, but going down this whole weird, dried up, high pitch, high tone kind of execution with his voice, and the combination of that janky instrumental and that kind of weird that kind of thing genuinely makes me think or feel like I'm hearing something from Corey Feldman's Angelic to the Core. Just for me anyway, a really uncomfortable listen pretty much start to finish. You know, there are a couple of touches here and there that are okay, that are alright, they're a bit cleaner, where things come together a little bit better, in the middle in particular. But yeah, not much good here, not gonna lie, given all the different elements we get in this tune. So for this one, can't quite put it at the bottom because of those little moments here and there, but it's gonna have to go between E and F. Coast is clear. Okay, next up following that we have Dirty Vibe with Diplo on the instrumental duty and G-Dragon and CL on vocal duty. This track is a definite top 3 for me personally on the LP. I am still to this very day trying to rack my head around the heaviness and just how it works, how they mapped it out as a duo, Skrillex and Diplo. Just the detail that we get here, how fidgety and devilish it all is with the vocal play, how it's all chopped up. It still just kind of baffles me, again, the intricacy, while still being so heavy and chunky and just genuinely gorgeous when it comes to the production of it overall. It's the other vocal part for me, the features from G-Dragon and CL, that bring the track down a bit. Initially, when they're, you know, in the introduction and the first half of the tune, really good, but as the track goes on, I think they overstay their welcome a little bit with their vocal features, and the focus of the track, I think, shifts significantly as it goes on into that second half, and the track overall just kind of loses steam a little bit. But that heaviness is fantastic. It is some of my favourite from Skrillex's entire discography, and for that reason alone, I have to put it in the A row. There we go. Okay, after that, we have Ragabomb, a fan favourite, I think, from the LP for the most part, if we're speaking generally about it. All the force and power, I think, of Skrillex's music that one could want, and the Ragga Twins again come through with a fantastic vocal, matching the instrumental in a very effective and powerful way. I just don't think, compared with other tunes there, it is still good, don't get me wrong, I like it a lot, Ragabomb, but I don't think it quite has the X factor that other tunes on this LP have. I think I've always wanted a little bit more from the drop ideas that we get here. The sound, fantastic, really grisly, again, huge, forceful, powerful, but the ideas are not really all that. I think the one at the end, the drum and bass one that we get, feels to me anyway like a little bit of an add-on, and then beyond that, just not that much flair on the cut, aside from maybe the main vocal refrain of "Ruffy drop the bomb on them." So yeah, for me, Ragabomb, very, very solid, maybe without that spark, that ear-catching moment to really, really elevate it to one of the best on this LP. But I know that is going to be contentious with a lot of you, because I know a lot of you do enjoy this one quite a bit, but for me, Ragabomb is a solid B placement. There we go. I love restructuring these so that they're a bit more neatly kind of planned out, you know. After that, track number 8, I think, we have Doompy Poomp, and yeah, interesting title if you haven't heard it before. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it simple here. I know there's a decent amount of hate and distaste out there for this particular track, Mr. Fantano, I see you. Which is fair, it's fine, you know, it is a bit of an odd tune, it is a strange cut, if you will, but for me, when I hear it, I just hear a cutesy little tune that comes at the perfect point in the LP to constitute as an important mood change given all the serious stuff we've had before. That is basically what that one boils down to for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not saying it's one of the best on the LP, let alone in his discography or anything like that. It's just something with a bit of cheekiness and a bit of charm about it, and something notably different different again for the LP at that point, doing that thing of slowing the pace down, like I said, before the final leg of the LP, the final 3 tracks we get, which we're about to talk about. So yeah, given everything that I've said there, given where it is in the track list, it does the job well, and it's just quite funny at points, and a lot of good sound usage. So yeah, doompy poop, I'm putting in the C. Okay, track number 9, we have Fuck That, Fuck That, Fuck That. Another absolute banger, another absolute bop, another personal favourite for me on the album when we're talking about top 3 or 4 from the LP overall. And yeah, just another where I'm like, given what he goes for on this track, it has pretty much everything, if not everything. The main idea that we get for the first drop is the definition of naughty. Love how it kind of boulders along with that really warm feel about it, but still a very demonic appeal with the sound usage as well, really good. The breakdown for the second drop, completely expert with the idea and the execution relative to what we got in that first drop. And the main vocal sample is just one of the catchiest earworms on the whole album, you got to admit it. And all the while with this really compelling underground aesthetic and essence just kind of permeating the entire tune, rooting it in the origins of bass music, if you will, which is fantastic. Yeah, yet again, I think we have another very, very good tune from him. Not quite one of his best ever, not within his discography overall, but definitely one of the best for me on the LP. So we are looking at another A row for Fuck That. We got that right there. Moving on, and penultimately, we have of course, we have Skrillex's refashioning of Nicki and the Doves' DJ Ease My Mind called Ease My Mind. Now, to be honest, I've never been that fond of this cut. I mean, there's a little bit of clever reworking here and there of the vocal and, you know, slightly different emotional turns that it takes that the original might not. But I'm not sure there's enough of it to the point that I see the point of doing this refashioning, if you get what I mean. The drops are just quite unremarkable, they're fine, and the whole remix posing as an original kind of thing, I think for me anyway, takes a bit away from it as well. Just could have done way more with it, I think, given that it is essentially a remix. You know, he puts his stamp on it, but not quite enough in my opinion. So given all of that, I think it's going to be another little midway point here, but this time between C and D for Ease My Mind, or the refashioning of DJ Ease My Mind by Nicki and the Dove. There we go. And finally on the LP, track number 11, we have Fire Away, which for me just rounds off a couplet that we get at the very end of this album following Ease My Mind that is, just fine. With this tune, with this cut in particular, instrumentally, always enjoyed the chilling vibe, the snowy vibe that we get across the cut, permeating it, made it really, really well on that front, instrumentally, music-wise, and kind of paved the way as well for tunes of his like Cliptown Empyrean a bit further down the line. For me with this one, it's the vocal that I've never quite been able to get on board with. I mean, emotionally, it's very heart-rending and somber, I like that about it, but lyrically, again, just never been able to quite get on board. And the vocal chopping that we get about, well, just around halfway through only adds to that, just kind of brings that whole vocal aspect for me of the track down a little bit. So I think for me, the good and the not so good pretty much in equal measure, given the relationship between the instrumental and the vocal play that we get here on that tune. So given that, again, I'm gonna go for a C row to end off here with Fire Away. But there we go, guys, my ranking for all 11 tracks from Skrillex's debut album Recess. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I think now you can see maybe why I don't quite think it is a classic. Nothing definitively in the S row for me, and we've got quite a bit in the C, D range, and then one in the E and F as well. So I think maybe now you can see why I was a little bit hesitant at first, and almost now as well, pretty much also, to call it a classic. I don't think still I can quite go there. But now I want to hear from you guys. What do you make of my ranking, my tier list right here? Is it contestable, agreeable? How much of it do you like and dislike? All that good stuff. And then also want to know whether you think Recess is in fact a classic. I want to have all this discussion in the comment section down below. Drop all your thoughts right there. Beyond that, my Patreon is linked in the description box if you want to help support the channel, get some exclusive content every month for a small fee, and yeah, subscribe if you haven't yet if you enjoy this content, if you like bass music, dubstep, all that good stuff. And if you could like the video as well, that would be massively appreciated if you did enjoy watching it. But yeah, again, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one, whatever that might be. Peace.